Salamanders are a group of amphibians that look roughly like lizards with their legs and tails, but with the addition of blunt, frog-like mouths. These fascinating creatures are carnivorous and predominantly nocturnal, where most of them are very small. As of today, there are about 760 living species of salamanders. Because of that, stay with us as we are looking at 10 of the most beautiful salamanders in the world. A common newt of eastern North America, the eastern newt is an extremely toxic species that produces tetrodotoxin, making it unpalatable to predatory fish and crayfish. Typically, the adults are olive or greenish-brown with small spots, but as juveniles, they are absolutely gorgeous with their reddish-orange coloration and 2 rows of black-bordered red spots. Generally, these juveniles metamorphose into aquatic adults after 2 to 3 years, but some populations would remain in the juvenile stage permanently, only entering pools to breed. Living in lower western Canada, the western United States and northern Mexico, the beautiful tiger salamander is one of the largest salamander species in North America, with a length of up to 16.5 centimeters. They are primarily terrestrial as adults, but their juvenile larval stage is entirely aquatic, having external gills. Interestingly, there are 2 main feeding morphologies for their larvae, typical and cannibalistic. The cannibalistic form is characterized by large vomerine teeth, slim bodies, and wider heads. The teeth give a better hold on prey, and the wider heads allow them to eat larger organisms. Cannibalistic tiger salamanders tend to metamorphosize earlier than the typical ones. Most often, cannibals are found in drier areas and more competitive waters, making earlier metamorphosis advantageous. Found from southern New York, south to northern Alabama, and west to Missouri in the United States, long-tailed salamanders are often yellow, but can range in color to red with irregular dots and dashes along their bodies and tails. And as the name suggests, the species has a long tail, which makes up more than half of its total length. It is a cave salamander that frequents twilight zones of caves and also inhabits springs and surrounding forest. Overall, the population size of this species is large, with probably more than 100,000 individuals in the wild. Even though some local populations may have been impacted by strip mining and acid drainage from coal mining, there are no major threats, and its range mostly overlaps with several protected areas. Found in most of southern and central Europe, fire salamanders are absolutely gorgeous, with fiery orange or yellow markings on their black skin. In ancient times, people wrongly believed that they were born in fires. That's because fire salamanders often hide under logs, and when people gathered those logs to build a fire, salamanders ran out of the flames. However, most people never see fire salamanders because they are active at night instead of during the day. They would spend much of their lives staying cool and moist under rocks or logs, avoiding extreme heat or cold, and only exploring their habitat when it is cool and damp. Despite its wide distribution and abundance, it is classified as vulnerable on the IUCN Red List. One of the biggest threats to European fire salamanders is a deadly fungus called basal, which makes it impossible for affected salamanders to absorb oxygen through their skin or to eat. Basal has killed thousands of native salamanders in Europe since it was discovered in 2013, and it is believed to have been brought to Europe by people importing Asian newts to sell as pets. Commonly found in eastern United States and Canada, the beautiful spotted salamander is an inhabitant of mature forests with ponds or ephemeral vernal pools for breeding sites. Vernal pools are suitable breeding sites for these amphibians as they dry often enough to exclude fish that eat the salamander eggs and larvae, while retaining water long enough to allow amphibian larvae to complete development and metamorphose into terrestrial adults. However, if the water dries up before they grow into juveniles, these larvae would end up dead. Interestingly, spotted salamanders and green algae make for an odd couple. In fact, they share a close bond that begins when the algae start growing in the salamander's egg and enter the developing embryo's tissues and cells. The algae may benefit because of nitrogen that's a waste product for the salamander, while the byproduct of photosynthesis by the algae would provide the embryos extra oxygen for their survival after hatching. Endemic to the eastern United States, the adorable red salamander truly lives up to its name with its back that varies in color from an orange-brownish tint to a bright red, depending on its age. By evolving bright red coloration similar to that of the extremely toxic eastern newt, the red salamander benefits from the fact that many predators have learned to avoid this color. The red salamander is also somewhat toxic itself, and this bright red coloration helps it to reinforce the avoidance behavior in predators. Overall, this species is common and widespread, but locally it has declined because of habitat loss, and it is considered threatened in Indiana and New York. Native to continental Europe and introduced to Great Britain and New Zealand, the male Alpine newts are absolutely gorgeous with their conspicuous coloration than the drab females, especially during breeding season. And this species has a very elaborate courtship ritual that takes place underwater. The male Alpine newt uses his tail to wave pheromones towards the female. At the end of the courtship dance, the male would deposit a packet of sperm on the floor, and the receptive female then picks it up with her cloaca, allowing fertilization to happen for the continuity of this beautiful species. Native to the mountain forests of the southeastern United States, red-legged salamanders are easily characterized by their slate-gray to bluish-black bodies and red coloration on their dorsal side of their legs. This species shelters under logs or rocks by day and forages on the forest floor at night, consuming a wide variety of small invertebrates found on the forest floor. When courtship occurs, the female would straddle the tail of the male, making him to turn and perform a head slap, which transfers pheromonal secretions from the mental gland under his chin to the female. After the head slap, the female continues to straddle the male's gently undulating tail, while resting her chin until the male deposits a white spermatophore on the substrate, then moves forward and away. The female moves forward, keeping her chin on his tail base until her vent area is over the spermatophore and picks it up with her cloaca. Native to Yunnan and parts of South China, the emperor newt is a large species that can grow up to 20 centimeters long. Even though it might seem like an easy prey because of its slow, almost lackadaisical movements, it is actually a highly toxic species. The orange bumps along its back are poison glands, and when the newt is grabbed, the tips of its ribs will squeeze out poison from these glands. In fact, emperor newts have enough toxin to kill approximately 7,500 mice. Endemic to the southern Zagros Mountains in Iran, the kaiser's spotted newt is a very colorful species, and being a beautiful creature, there is a price this animal has to pay. The biggest threat to this species is illegal overharvesting for the national and international pet trade. Since 2006, the species was listed as critically endangered at the global level. In fact, the IUCN Species Survival Commission included the kaiser's spotted newt in the list of 100 most endangered species in 2012. Since then, more research was conducted, and it was revealed that wild population of the species is larger than previously thought. And in 2016, the kaiser's spotted newt was moved to the vulnerable category.